Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Danzo's Coercion. The third generation's choice. The night climbed up the sky, bringing everything into darkness. At this time, most of the ninjas have finished their work and returned home to play and rest with their families, but the lights on the floor belonging to the Hokage are still on. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, holds a pen in his hand and keeps correcting. On the table that belongs to him alone, there is a thick stack of documents waiting for him to deal with. This Hokage who has been in office for the longest time. Inheriting the spirit of the first and second generations of Hokage, pushing Konoha to prosperity and growth, and bringing it to the top, and also bringing forth new ideas and summarizing the will of fire, is truly admirable in terms of diligence. Third generation, everything is ready, it's time to make the final decision. In the room, a figure suddenly appeared. There were circles of white bandages wrapped around his head, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and resentment. Danzo, hearing this, the hand holding the pen of the third generation paused, and his brows frowned slightly, but in the end, he didn't say anything more, picked up the pen and continued to write. A few days ago, Uchiha Fugaku organized the backbone and elite forces of the Uchiha clan to gather in the Konoha Guard Department to discuss how to rebel against Konoha, and even had a specific plan. These are the messages sent back by the Umbu, and they are undoubtedly accurate. Do we really have to wait until the Uchiha clan is ready to fight us to the point of mutual destruction? Danzo half closed his eyes, speaking in a calm tone. Based on his understanding of the third generation over the years, he knew clearly that the third generation had already acquiesced, but he was just one breath away from it. Otherwise, could he really hide what he was doing in secret from the third generation's eyes? The reason he came here was to give this breath, to get the most definite answer. When the night of the genocide came, he wanted to make sure there would be no surprises. In recent years, our Konoha village seems to be prosperous and powerful, but in fact, there is a lack of successors. The old ones are too old, and the young ones have not really grown up yet. The generation that should be held responsible the most, the fourth Hokage Minato died in the battle. Among the three ninjas, Orochimaru defected, Tsunade and Jiraiya have been wandering outside and are missing. It even came to the point where you and I, two old men, had to come to support the scene. You know the strength of the Uchiha clan. Their evil Sharingan allows them to have the upper hand against anyone they fight. The clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku, is in his prime, and his strength is unfathomable. When they are ready, can Konoha still win? Even if we can win, what kind of losses will we suffer? The ninja world today seems peaceful, but in fact, it is turbulent. I don't know how many people are coveting the status of our Konoha. Once a war breaks out, our Konoha's power will be damaged, allowing other ninja villages to take advantage of the situation. It will be too late to regret then. Third generation, it's time to make a decision. We can't let the entire Konoha suffer huge losses because of your indecision. We must. Enough. The third Hokage said in a deep voice, interrupting Danzo. He frowned and lowered his head, so his facial expression could not be seen, but from his slightly trembling hands, it was clear that he was not at peace in his heart. Danzo looked calm and continued, I have prepared everything. As soon as the time comes, I will take action immediately. For Konoha, no one can stop me, not even you as the Hokage. Crack. The pen in the hand of the third Hokage was broken. He raised his head suddenly, and his usually kind and gentle eyes were rarely sharp. Danzo, don't go too far. Danzo still had a calm expression, with a hint of a cold smile on his lips. The two of them were in a faint confrontation. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Then, without waiting for the Sandai to respond, he pushed the door open and walked in. It was Asuma who came to deliver the message. He rushed in, panting, and looked a little flustered. Danzo, who was originally standing in front of the Sandai, had disappeared. What's going on? Why are you so flustered? The third generation looked at Asuma and said with some dissatisfaction, he trained his son as his successor, how could he be so reckless? Asuma didn't care about these things at all. After coming in, he said directly, something bad has happened. The messenger of Uniing village is dead. What? The third generation frowned. What's going on? How could the envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village die? Asuma panted slightly and explained the whole story in detail. The third generation half squinted his eyes, looking a little serious. The envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village intended to kidnap Hinata, so as to obtain the bloodline limit of the Hyuga clan, the Byakugan. From this point of view, he died. He deserved it, however. He was the envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village after all. He represented the dignity of the Cloud Shadow Village. He died in Konoha village like this, which was tantamount to a great insult to the Cloud Shadow Village. In addition, the relationship between Konoha and the Cloud Shadow Village over the years cannot be said to be very good, with the extremely irritable character of the Raikage. An improper handling may cause a war between the entire Konoha Village and the Cloud Shadow Village. Come on, I'll go with you to take a look, Sandai said in a deep voice, noticing his father's solemn expression. Asuma couldn't help but ask, it shouldn't be anything serious, right? In the final analysis, it was the people of Cloud Shadow Village who were at fault. If they hadn't been plotting something bad and wanted to kidnap Hinata, how could this have happened? Director, if we can capture the Cloud Shadow Village envoy alive, we can use this to ask for benefits from the Cloud Hidden Village. But I should never have killed him. Things turned out differently. Completely different. The envoy is the face and dignity of a village. Killing the envoy of Union Village is an insult to the entire Union Village. I'm afraid it's not that easy to end this matter. It's actually so serious. Although Asuma had some guesses in his mind before this, he was still a little surprised after hearing the confirmation of the third generation. The third generation snorted coldly and looked at Asuma, implying something many times. Whether something is serious or not may not lie in the matter itself. Asuma's eyes showed a thoughtful look, and he was even more confused. The third generation was a little disappointed. His son's aptitude for training was not excellent, and was far behind the genius ninja like Hitaki Kakashi. In terms of his level of effort, he was not as good as Might Guy who practiced hard all day, but these are not the most important. To be a Hokage, it is important to have popularity and to be able to distinguish the situation clearly. These are what Asuma does not have now, but fortunately, he is still here. Asuma still has time to grow. I hope that when that day really comes, Asuma will have achieved the step he expects. The third generation patted Asuma on the shoulder and said, you will understand soon. Let's go and have a look. After saying that, he used a teleportation technique to leave the place. Asuma followed closely behind him. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 42. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone is acting. The third Hokage and Asuma arrived at the scene of the incident very quickly. Accompanying them were several Umbun ninjas who always followed the Hokage. Seeing the Hokage coming, Kurenai Yuhi, Yuzuki Yugao, Might Guy and Hayate all rushed over. Qianye, as before, stood aside. He did not stand with them, he just nodded slightly when the third Hokage saw him. After arriving at the scene, the third Hokage asked several people at the scene about the situation again. What they said was basically similar to what Asuma said, with little difference, but the third Hokage noticed something from their words. That is, from beginning to end, there was only one person who truly experienced this matter, and that was Uchiha Qianye, and the others just saw this scene. What exactly happened in the middle? How did the messenger of Union Village die at the hands of Qianye? They knew nothing. The third Hokage walked towards Qianye with his usual kind and gentle look. Qianye, this time it's all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I am afraid even if Hinata was kidnapped, we wouldn't know. I will personally greet Chief Fugaku and ask him to reward you well. Thank you, Sandai. Qianye pretended to be slightly surprised, but in fact he was calm. Reward? What a joke. It won't be long before the Uchiha clan is wiped out. What's the use of reward? Sandai paused for a moment and said, I heard from Asuma that it was you who discovered that Hinata was kidnapped, and then caught up with the ninja from the Cloud Shadow Village. What happened in the meantime? Can you tell me in detail? Qianye's heart moved. Is he suspicious? He is worthy of being the third generation. He found the flaw so quickly. However, he did not express it openly, but just said lightly, after I caught up with him, I didn't know that this man was the messenger of Union Village. In order to save Hinata, I had to fight him. This man was very powerful, so I had to fight him with all my strength, but I failed and killed the envoy of Uchiha village. The third generation's eyes moved slightly, but he didn't show it too much. He nodded and said, "Okay, I understand, you all leave. This place is under the control of the Umbu. Immediately go to Uchiha village to tell them what happened here." Yes. An Umbu ninja received the order and disappeared from the spot with a flash. Qianye and others did not ask too much. After sending Hinata home, they went home. This kind of confidential matter between villages has always been taken over by the Umbu. This is management. Even Asuma could not ask more. Then, the third generation ordered the Umbu to scout the scene and search for any clues that might be found. He returned to the office and looked through the window at the darkness outside. That Uchiha kid is lying. For some reason, Danzo appeared behind the third generation again. It was a battle of all strength, but there were hardly any signs of fighting at the scene. Unless the strength is overwhelming, this situation will definitely not happen. Uchiha Qianye. Interesting, getting more and more interesting. After a slight pause, he continued, the envoy of Uchiha village is not weak, better than the average elite jonin, and is on par with Jinchūriki who was killed by Uchiha Qianye before. The novel was taken from the Rawla's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Uchiha Qianye was able to kill him easily. His strength should not be underestimated. The third generation looked out the window, as if he didn't hear anything, and said nothing. In fact, he had already noticed all this when Qianye said that, but he didn't expose it. It's not that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. Qianye's identity was too sensitive, especially now. Konoha and the Uchiha clan are incompatible, but he suspected the people of the Uchiha clan. It was like adding fuel to the fire. It would only make the situation more uncontrollable. Now, he is still worried about how to deal with the people of Uchiha village. He can't drag the Uchiha clan into it, so, he pretended to be fine, asked everyone to go back first, and then he would come back to make plans. Seeing that the third generation didn't say anything, Danzo was not angry, but continued to speak slowly. Since you have such strong strength, there is no such thing as failure. In other words, Uchiha Qianye actually killed the ninjas from the Cloud Shadow village on purpose. We all know Uchiha Qianye. He is known for his calmness, steadiness, composure, and intelligence. Did he not know the consequences of killing the Qianye village messenger? Or did he just want to start a war between Konoha and Qianye village so that the Uchiha clan could benefit from it? Or maybe, this was ordered by Fugaku. The Sandai was still looking out the window with his back to Danzo. However, based on Danzo's understanding of the Sandai must be in a state of unrest now. He continued, now my Konoha is still prosperous, and there are still people like the Qianye village who have ulterior motives and want to attack us. Gung and Huang were after we fought a great battle with the Uchiha clan and both sides were defeated. What kind of situation will we face then? Third generation, for the sake of Konoha, my plan must be implemented. No one can stop it. This time, the third generation did not immediately oppose and confront like last time. Instead, he remained silent as before. Danzo was not in a hurry to urge him, but stood there waiting. He knew that his goal had been achieved. After a while, the third generation let out a long breath and said, the Uchiha clan, that was the family that founded Konoha together with the first generation. How will future generations view us if we kill all the heroes who founded Konoha? No one will know. Danzo's mouth corners have been slightly raised. The third generation slowly said, there is no impenetrable wall in the world. As long as you do it, it will definitely be known by others. Danzo sneered, with a hint of sarcasm on the corners of his mouth. This matter was completely organized and carried out by me. You can completely ignore it. Even later, you can put all the blame on me. The Sandai's thin body, which was gradually bent due to age, trembled slightly. He turned around and looked at Danzo with a sincere look. Such a huge crime, all of it is borne by you. As it should be. Danzo interrupted the third Hokage and said calmly, you are the Hokage of Konoha, the branch, the symbol of greatness. I am the root of Konoha, hiding underground, and I will destroy all the existences that threaten Konoha. This is my duty. The third generation was startled, and a series of complex expressions flashed across his face. There was regret, hesitation, and loss, but in the end it turned into a long sigh, alas. He turned his head again and looked at the darkness outside the window, and Danzo had left at some point, as if he had never appeared. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 43. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Umbu's surveillance. Weird situation. Qianye and Yuhi Kurenai and others sent Hinata home. Qianye immediately returned home. What happened today was completely beyond his expectations. For this reason, he had to take action and expose himself to the public. After all, it was Hinata who was kidnapped, not others. Even if there is a risk of exposure, he can't help but save her. He knew clearly that his flawed words would definitely be doubted. Fortunately, the night of genocide is approaching, and he won't be in Konoha for too long. I don't think anything will happen, and even if something really happens, so what? With his current strength, there is really no one who can stop him from leaving Konoha now. One night of practice. On the second day, Qianye was supposed to continue some tasks that he had not completed yesterday, but because of the sudden situation last night, all the work was disrupted. Qianye received news early in the morning that the original task no longer needed to be done and was considered completed. After completing the task, he will get a whole day of rest. In other words, Qianye will have a full day to conduct the fourth simulation. This is also good news. He couldn't wait to try it out. With the Otsutsuki physique, would release, Mangekyo Sharingan, and 80-God Sky Attack, could he fight against the non-peak first and second generation Hokage who were reborn from the impure world reincarnation? Time passed little by little. Qianye entered into training again, improving his strength step by step. In the process, he could clearly see the prying of others. It was not the masked man, nor Orochimaru. People with the strength of the Kage level would not be so bad at hiding. It was the people of the third generation, the ninjas of the Umbu. Sure enough, although everything was fine on the surface, they had sent people to monitor behind the scenes. However, this approach was not incomprehensible. After all, as early as when he took action, he was destined to be suspected and doubted. This was inevitable. However, Qianye did not directly pull these people out like he did with the masked man and Orochimaru, but ignored them and treated them as if they did not exist at all. First of all, these were different from Orochimaru and the masked man. They could not cause any hindrance to him at all. Secondly, fighting with these people now is undoubtedly going to war with Konoha. This is what Qianye doesn't want to see. The system he has is the Uchiha clan Extermination night simulation system. If he breaks up with Konoha directly, he will probably be surrounded and suppressed from all directions. Without the Uchiha clan Extermination night, how can he conduct the fourth and fifth simulations safely? This is what Qianye doesn't want to see anyway. Therefore, even if he has a strong strength, he still chooses to endure temporarily. Anyway, it's just training, and it's not a secret. Just watch it if you want. As for the simulation, once the door is closed, who can see it? However, just when Qianye was immersed in training, the entire Konoha village was in an uproar because of what happened last night. The ninjas of the Cloud Shadow village attempted to kidnap Hinata, the daughter of Hinata Hayashi, the patriarch of the Konoha Hyuga clan. As a result, they were stopped by Uchiha Qianye, Asuma, and others who had just completed their mission halfway. The conspiracy of the Cloud Shadow village was exposed. The Cloud Shadow village messenger was killed. Hinata was also rescued. At the beginning, almost everyone cheered. They said that the Cloud Shadow village was stealing a chicken but ended up losing the rice. At the same time, several ninjas who participated in it, such as Asuma, Might Guy, and Yuhi Kurenai, received extremely high praise. Of course, most of the praise belongs to Asuma, Might Guy, and other Konoha ninjas. As for Qianye, she was intentionally or unintentionally ignored. Even if there is a definite source of information, it is Uchiha Qianye who killed the Cloud Shadow village ninja and saved Hyuga Hinata, not others. It is still the same. There is almost no big change. However, what is very strange is the attitude of the Hyuga clan. Logically speaking, the one who was rescued is the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan leader, who is regarded as the future successor of the entire Hyuga clan. This can be regarded as a great favor, but after so long, there is not even an open thank you. It is really too abnormal. Even if the one who was rescued is just an ordinary member of the Hyuga clan, it should not be like this, the high level. Officials of Konoha also behaved almost the same as the Hyuga clan. The news spread like wildfire in the village. The top leaders were unusually silent, as if it had never happened. At the same time, several key figures in this matter, Qianye, because of his identity as an Uchiha clan, usually does not come to Konoha village. Others, Asuma, Might Guy, Heiate, Yuhi Kurenai, and Yuzuki Yugao were also nowhere to be seen. This made the development of things a little subtle. Some people have noticed that this matter is unusual, and soon things took a sharp turn for the worse and changed dramatically. They began to think about the consequences of killing the envoy of the Cloud Shadow village in Konoha village, and the war that is very likely to happen. Although everyone knows that Konoha is more reasonable in this matter, but they know more about the temper of the Cloud Shadow village and its contemporary rakeage. If you use 2 words to describe it, it is a reckless man. That irritable, impulsive, and belligerent character, indifferent to life and death, will do it if he is not convinced. Let's fight a war first. In particular, the relationship between Konoha and the Cloud Shadow village has never been very harmonious. The second Hokage, Senju Tobarama, was killed by the Kinkaku and Ginkaku of Kumikage village. A few years ago, there was also the incident where Kumikage village ninjas tried to kidnap Kushina, and this time, they directly targeted the famous and prestigious family of Konoha village, the Hyuga clan. But the Kumikage village is so powerful that it has always been the second largest village after Konoha. Moreover, they have always coveted Konoha's position and wanted to replace it. If something like this happened, wouldn't it just give the Cloud Shadow village a reason to go to war? Konoha is not as strong as before. The 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, who was supposed to take on the heavy responsibility, died in battle. One of the 3 famous Konoha ninjas in the ninja world defected, and the other 2 are missing. As for the others, they are more or less not good enough. How can the old 3rd Hokage, who is already old, fight against the Cloud Shadow village? When the dark cloud of war looms, when you are on the weaker side, it is really hard not to feel despair. Inevitably, some people began to shirk responsibility. Whoever committed the crime should bear the responsibility. How can the whole village let everyone bear it? So, someone soon remembered the name Uchiha Qianye. Anyway, the relationship between Konoha and the Uchiha clan is tense. No one can stand each other. Let the people of the Uchiha clan bear the consequences, and they will not have any psychological burden in their hearts. Soon, most people in Konoha village reached a consensus that it was Uchiha Qianye who killed the envoy of Kumikage village, and he should bear all the consequences. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 44. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Fugaku's comfort. But Qianye had never heard of these. For such a long time, he had been practicing chakra and ninjutsu. Even the Umbun ninja hiding in the dark and monitoring Qianye couldn't help but marvel. I didn't expect that in Konoha village, besides Might Guy, there would be such a hard-working ninja. No wonder he could achieve what he has now. I thought this kind of life would continue until the 4th simulation, but unexpectedly, it was broken. In the evening, there was a knock on Qianye's door. Dong dong dong. Qianye, are you there? A voice came from outside the door. Qianye could tell that this was one of the backbones of the Uchiha clan. After he agreed to join the rebellion, he enthusiastically invited him to eat food, but he refused. Qianye responded and went over to open the door. Outside the door, there were 2 people standing. In addition to the person who was speaking, there was also the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku, patriarch. Qianye bowed to Fugaku. Yeah. Fugaku responded and looked at Qianye, his face as calm as usual. However, at this moment, his eyes suddenly focused, and his aura became fiercer in an instant. Looking at a place in the darkness, it was the place where the Umbun ninjas were hiding. Several Umbun ninjas immediately became alert. Retreat. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the instant body technique to escape. They have been exposed, and there is no need to stay. What's more, that is Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. He didn't take action just because he was proud of his status and didn't want the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Konoha to become more intensified. This is giving them face. If they don't leave, they are really looking for death. There was a strange flash in Qianye's eyes. What a keen perception. In fact, after the ninjas and the Umbu discovered that Fugaku had arrived, they had already retreated to a relatively safe distance in advance. Unexpectedly, he was discovered just after he arrived. With such a strong perception, Fugaku's true strength cannot be underestimated. The confidant standing next to Fugaku was full of disdain, and he spat and said coldly, "These bastards of Konoha." Fugaku was much calmer. The Umbu had been monitoring the entire Uchiha clan for a long time. How could they escape the powerful perception of his Mangekyo Sharingan? He was not surprised at all that Qianye used these methods. He turned around and looked at Qianye and said, "Qianye, I came here this time because there is one thing you need to know, that Qianye's eyes flashed, and he had some guesses in his mind, things related to him. It's hard not to think of what happened just yesterday. He stepped aside, invited Fugaku and the other man into the house, poured 2 cups of tea, and sat them down. Before Qianye could open his mouth to ask formally, the core member of the Uchiha clan sitting next to Fugaku couldn't help but yell. He roughly talked about what happened in Konoha village that day, then he said indignantly, "Qianye, you don't know how shameless those people in Konoha are. When it comes to credit, all the contributions are from the ninjas of Konoha village, and you, Qianye, are not mentioned at all." Later, when word spread that Union village would not let this go and would most likely use this as an excuse to start a war, they brought you out again and made you bear all the responsibility. Even the Hyuga clan remained silent. Is it true that we in the Uchiha clan never get any good things, but have to bear all the bad things on our shoulders? Now people outside are clamoring about how to hand you over to calm the anger of Union village. This bunch of bastards, ungrateful bastards. His face flushed a little, and he clenched his fists tightly, showing his anger. However, it was obvious that on the surface he was complaining for Qianye's experience, but in fact he was complaining for the Uchiha clan. What? Qianye pretended to be a little flustered. In fact, he had already seen through everything in his heart, from the attitude of the villagers towards him when he was walking on the streets of Konoha with Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao yesterday. It can be clearly felt that the current Konoha and the Uchiha clan are separated, not a whole, and the hostility between them is already very serious. Under such circumstances, the vast majority of people in Konoha village would not have too much psychological burden to hand him over. Instead, what made him more curious was Fugaku's attitude. Fugaku is the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, the shadow-level strongman who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. On the night of the genocide, he should have stood up to turn the situation around, but in the end he chose to give up and was willing to be killed by his own son. Now, his own people are going to be sent out to take the blame. What will he do? Seeing Qianye's panic, the core member of the Uchiha clan patted his chest to assure and comfort him. "Qianye, don't worry, this is not just your problem, it's also the problem of our entire Uchiha clan. The clan leader and the entire Uchiha clan will never agree to hand you over. At worst, I can just fight them. Are we, the Uchiha clan, afraid of these bastards?" After hearing these words, Qianye calmed down a little, expressing his gratitude. During this process, Uchiha Fugaku did not speak the whole time. He turned the teacup in one hand and took a sip from time to time. After he finished speaking, Fugaku looked up at Fugaku and said, "Qianye, what do you want to do about this?" Qianye's mind moved. Fugaku was talking about what you want to do, not letting him rest assured that the Uchiha clan will stand with him. However, he did not hesitate at all on the surface, and said directly and decisively, "Chief, I listen to you." "Yeah." Fugaku nodded, picked up the teacup and took a sip, then waved his hand, signaling the ninja who came with him to go out first. When only Fugaku and Qianye were left in the room, Fugaku slowly said, "Qianye, what do you think of war?" Qianye said, "I don't like war. I remember that your parents died in the Third Ninja World War, and you are also a victim of the war." Fugaku's eyes became a little dazed, and he didn't know what he remembered from the past. After a slight pause, he asked again, "If one day you can avoid a war, what will you choose to do?" As he said, he looked directly at Qianye with a little sharpness. He knew that Qianye was a smart man and would definitely be able to hear the meaning of his words. Qianye looked calm and looked at Fugaku. "Sure enough, it has to be you, Fugaku. You really don't disappoint me at all." Facing Danzo's step-by-step pressure, you chose to give in step-by-step. Let your son, a member of the killing clan, let go. How could you be an enemy of the entire Konoha for him alone? 3-day summer discount event, recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, event time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Only the weak cannot control their destiny. After a while, Qianye responded, that depends on the price you pay. What if, it's your life? Fugaku looked straight at Qianye. Qianye didn't give in at all. I don't want to. Unwilling, this was obviously not the answer Fugaku wanted to hear. However, surprisingly, Fugaku didn't look angry or unhappy. Instead, he smiled faintly, shook his head, exhaled a long breath and said, yeah, it's your own life, who can be willing? Qianye didn't say much, but the tense atmosphere between the two had disappeared. Fugaku drank the tea in the cup and patted Qianye on the shoulder. I will try my best to protect you, but some things are like this. You have to know that I will not use the safety of my clan as a bargaining chip. Our plan of rebellion is still in the process of preparation. It will not do us any good to break off relations with Konoha now. It will only lead to failure and put our Uchiha clan in an irreparable situation. You are a smart person, you should know that many times you are helpless. People cannot be the masters of their own lives. This is true for you and me. Not everything in this world will go as you wish. The longer you live and the higher you stand, the more you will realize that reality is filled with helplessness, pain and emptiness. Speaking of this, Fu Yu's expression once again showed a trace of trance. He sighed softly, these few days, you should have a good rest at home. I will send someone to inform you if there is anything. After that, he put down the teacup and left. Qianye still sat on the ground and did not get up to see him off. People can't be the masters of their lives. Haha, this is just the incompetent words of cowards. What he advocates more is that my life is in my own hands. No matter who it is, don't think of deciding his fate. Fu Yu's visit could not change Qianye's inner thoughts, or cause any fluctuations in his emotions. Because from the beginning to now, he has never thought about relying on others. Very early, he already knew that only his own strength is the foundation. Therefore, after Fu Yu left, Qianye entered into cultivation as before. At point 12:00 noon on the second day, the fourth simulation began. The system starts simulating, Qianye said directly. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation begins. The current solidified ability, Otsutsuki physique, golden ability, has a super strong self-healing ability, which is comparable to an immortal body when it reaches the extreme state. At the same time, it can also absorb ninjutsu, and the chakra it can possess is almost infinite. Therefore, it is also called the immortal body. Would release, golden ability, a unique secret technique created by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. It is a kind of bloodline limit, which is composed of water and earth chakras. It is a ninjutsu that the caster uses his own chakra as the source of life. 80 God's Airstrike, golden ability, a type of bloodline net that maximizes chakra and transforms it into countless powerful punches, thus bringing an extremely powerful fist wind. Shake the sky with the immortal way, attack and defend at the same time, with a ruthless fist. Currently available abilities, Immortality, Purple ability, Illusion Master, Blue ability, Elemental Controller, Purple ability, Chakra plus 500, Blue ability, Physical Skills plus 100, Blue ability. Qianye looked from top to bottom. As expected, no golden abilities appeared. For him now, even a few purple abilities would have limited impact on his improvement. If he wanted to significantly improve his strength, he would have to have golden abilities, but, no matter how small a fly is, it is still meat. No matter how small the improvement is, it has to be taken. With a simple selection, Qianye finally chose the ability, Otsutsuki physique, golden ability, that would release, golden ability. 80 God's Air attack, golden ability, immortality, purple ability. No matter what kind of damage you receive, you will not die, and you have amazing recovery ability. Elemental Master, purple ability. When performing any attribute ninjutsu, the power will be greatly enhanced. Chakra plus 500, blue ability. Chakra amount slightly increased. There are 6 abilities in total, 3 gold, 2 purple and 1 blue. It can be said to be luxurious. Ability selection completed. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system starts simulating. The scene in front of him changed. Qianye once again came to this extremely familiar night. However, the surrounding environment had changed greatly. This was not Qianye's own room. Instead, it was a somewhat dark and damp place. It was pitch black around, with only a small window shedding a few rays of light. Is this the prison of the Konoha guard department? For Qianye, this place is not unfamiliar. After all, he has been working here for many years, and he soon recognized where this place is. But why is it here? Shouldn't it be in his own room? Qianye pondered carefully in his heart. According to the conclusion drawn before, things that happen in real life will affect the progress of the simulation. In the previous simulations, without exception, he was in his own room. This time, something changed. It should be affected by things that happened in real life. That should be because of the killing of the Unfilial village envoy. Has it finally come to this? Qianye squinted his eyes. In the original development of the matter, the Unfilial village envoy attempted to kidnap Hyuga Hinata, but was caught and killed by Hyuga Hayashi. The Unfilial village took the opportunity to threaten to start a war and ask for Hyuga Hayashi's body. In the end, although Hyuga Hayashi did not die, in order to avoid war, he still paid the life of his younger brother Hyuga Hayashi. In this life, the person who saved Hinata became him. So the same fate fell on him on his body. After a while, Qianye figured out the key point. It seems that Konoha and the Uchiha clan are still planning to hand him over, for the so-called peace. What a noble reason. So sacrificing one's life is justified and normal. Qianye couldn't help but snorted coldly. Originally, although he didn't have too deep feelings for Konoha and the Uchiha clan, his impression was not too bad, but now, there is only endless disgust and ridicule in his heart, especially for the high-level officials of Konoha and the Uchiha clan. He hated the weakness, decay, and darkness of the world. Qianye stood up and walked towards the closed iron door. With Qianye's current strength, such a mere iron door could not stop him at all. He was willing to be trapped here before, probably just to be able to conduct the fifth simulation safely. He walked to the iron door and activated his chakra, intending to break through the door, but at this moment, there was a sound from the door. 3-day summer promotion, charge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 46. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Danzo, am I not strong enough? Why aren't you surprised? Clatter, there was a heavy and crisp sound of iron chains colliding. Qianye clearly felt that someone was coming, more than one. They were approaching him. Qianye stopped what he was doing and looked outside the door indifferently. Sure enough, after a while, the iron door was opened. Outside the iron door, there were more than a dozen ninjas from the Root organization. The leader had circles of white bandages wrapped around his head, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and resentment. It was Danzo. Seeing Qianye standing calmly in the cell, calmly, without any panic, a hint of surprise flashed across Danzo's face, but soon he returned to his usual gloomy expression. He raised his arm slightly and waved it gently. The dozen or so ninjas from the Root organization behind him, except for the two on Danzo's left and right, all rushed forward and rushed towards Qianye. As soon as they met, they killed him without saying a word. Swish, swish, swish. There were bursts of sounds of breaking through the air. Shuriken after shurikens were densely packed and stabbed at Qianye. They wove a huge killing net in the air. In such a narrow cell, it was almost impossible to hide. Fire style, great fireball technique. A huge flame gushed out of Qianye's mouth, quickly gathering into a fireball with scorching flames, rolling forward. The hot air wave spread out. Those shurikens that had not yet touched the fireball quickly melted or were blown away. The fireball continued to roll forward with extremely terrifying power. The expressions of more than a dozen ninjas from the Root organization changed. They had never expected such a situation to happen, and hurriedly performed ninjutsu to resist. Water-style water wall. Earth escape earth flow wall. A series of defensive ninjutsu rose up instantly, blocking the front. The rolling fireball exploded quickly after colliding with these defensive ninjutsu, erupting with even more powerful and amazing energy. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Several water-style ninjutsu were quickly evaporated and disappeared. Under the powerful exploding fireball, these few water-style ninjutsu seemed so insignificant. The wall created by the earth escape technique was also blown up instantly, and all this only slightly reduced the power of Qianye's fireball. The powerful air wave generated by the explosion covered the front. More than a dozen ninjas from the root organization wanted to escape, but it was too late. They were knocked away, injured, and fell to the ground. However, when the powerful hot air wave spread to Danzo, it suddenly disappeared. It couldn't hurt him at all. There was also a hint of surprise on Danzo's face. Uchiha Qianye, the previous intelligence only said that you have extraordinary physical skills, but I didn't expect that even your ninjutsu has reached this level. Interesting. Qianye looked calm, smiling at the leader of the root organization. He had no good feelings towards Danzo. It can be said that many unfortunate things happened because of Danzo. For example, the night of the Uchiha clan extermination, the two ninjas standing next to Danzo were about to step forward to fight Qianye, but Qianye was stopped by Danzo. You don't have to do anything, just let me try. Danzo walked forward and slowly revealed the bandage wrapped around his shoulder. He revealed an arm that looked a little weird. It was a little creepy white. It was somewhat similar to the body of white Zetsu, Hashirama cells. Qianye recognized the strange arm at a glance. However, Danzo didn't have so many Sharingan on his body now. Those Sharingan were transplanted to Danzo after the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. If he only had Hashirama cells, it would not be enough. Hashirama cells can only exert part of the ability of wood release, and Qianye has the complete version of wood release. Kekkei limit. How to compare? Danzo stared at Qianye closely. He wanted to see some traces of surprise on Qianye's face. After all, this was the result of his experiments over the years. No one who saw it for the first time was not surprised, but Qianye was always calm and unperturbed. It surprised him a little, but he didn't think much about it, just thinking that he was a young man with no experience and didn't know how great his thing was. However, he believed that Qianye would know soon. Wood-style explosive gun technique. As soon as he made a move, he used wood-style. The unique bloodline of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. As the ninjutsu was performed, Danzo's right arm, which had been transplanted with Hashirama's cells, changed dramatically in an instant. A giant tree grew rapidly at an exaggerated speed visible to the naked eye, and soon occupied half of the cell, and continued to expand and expand. The countless branches on the tree were like indestructible weapons, destroying everything that touched it. Bang! These extremely solid cells made of fine iron slowly deformed and collapsed under the expansion of the tree. The scene became a mess. Qianye used the instant body technique to easily avoid all attacks like a leisurely stroll in the garden. Slow. Too slow. Not fierce enough. Is this worthy of being called wood style? Qianye was a little disdainful. Since you are so confident in your wood style, let Danzo see what real wood style is. Wood release of tree's birth. As the ninjutsu was performed, the ground began to tremble, and trees rose from the ground and grew at an astonishing speed. At first they were just seedlings, and gradually turned into small trees, and then continued to grow into towering trees with luxuriant branches and leaves. The giant tree that was originally indestructible and continuously expanding in the prison was broken and destroyed. Gradually it was assimilated into an ordinary tree in the sea of trees' birth. The surrounding environment changed significantly. In an instant, the entire Uchiha clan settlement turned into a forest. Danzo's expression changed drastically. This is wood release. It's actually wood release. How can he use wood release? However, he didn't have time to think about it. Branches and vines came one after another. Unlike the fierce and irresistible wood release of Danzo before, Qianye's wood release was obviously softer. But softness does not mean that it is not lethal and destructive. On the contrary, its destructive power is even stronger. This is due to Qianye's precise control of chakra. All chakra is used where it is needed. Instead of doing meaningless destruction, just this step alone has surpassed Danzo by a lot. Retreat. Danzo said in a deep voice. He gave the order to retreat without any hesitation. The power displayed by Qianye was beyond his imagination. As the leader of the root organization, he certainly had some tricks that he hadn't used yet, but those were his trump cards, so he couldn't use them casually. In the dark, there was an unfathomable masked man, so he had to be on guard. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity Time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 47. You are listening at novelfold.audio. A Battle of Illusions. After Qianye performed would release Sea of Trees, the entire Uchiha clan settlement turned into an extremely dense forest. It looked lush and full of life, but only the enemies who were really in it would know the horror here. Every tree and every branch and leaf are Qianye's eyes and hands and feet. Everything here, no matter how small, is clearly perceived by Qianye. All the trees are also under Qianye's control, here. Qianye is the only ruler, if you want to break the situation. You can only rely on powerful force to destroy everything here, or have a defense that ignores all attacks. There is no other way. At this time, Danzo was dodging quickly in it, although he is over 60 years old and no longer young, but his speed and his reaction are not slow at all. He is more comfortable than the two confidants who are traveling with him. However, under Qianye's offensive, he is still somewhat stretched. Vines and branches are like snakes, winding and climbing, extremely fast. If it was just one, let alone a Kage-level powerhouse like Danzo, even an ordinary Jonin could get rid of it easily. However, this was not just one, there were hundreds, even thousands. Densely packed and covering the sky, as far as the eye could see, there were almost no. And Danzo and his two trusted ninjas dodged while using ninjutsu to destroy, hoping to fight their way out. However, all this was too difficult. Danzo was a Kage-level powerhouse. Even if he didn't want to expose his trump card, he only used some ordinary ninjutsu, and the power should not be underestimated. Every time a ninjutsu was performed, it could directly sweep away a large area of space. However, there were too many branches and vines. Just as a space was swept out, the ones behind would catch up immediately, like a tide, and there was no end at all. Even Danzo was like this, let alone the two trusted ninjas around him. The situation they faced was even more dangerous. One of them had even suffered some minor injuries. If it wasn't for another ninja trying his best to rescue him, he would have been entangled and unable to move. Danzo frowned, his expression uncertain. He thought that no matter how powerful Qianye was, he brought so many elite ninjas from the root organization, and he was in charge of them. Wouldn't it be more than enough to deal with them? However, he miscalculated. The information he got before was not accurate at all. What do you mean he is just a ninja with outstanding individual skills? This one has clearly reached the level of Kage. He also mastered the legendary wood release. If he had known it would be so troublesome, he would not have wanted to come. However, the most important thing now is how to break the impasse and escape from danger. Of course, he has some means that may be able to break the impasse, but he does not intend to use them. He has other ways. Itachi, I know you're there. Come out, kill him, kill Uchiha Qianye. Danzo half closed his eyes, dodging branches and vines while speaking in a deep voice. However, except for the sound of branches and vines moving quickly, there was silence around. It seemed that there was no one at all. Danzo snorted coldly, with a hint of chill and threat. Itachi, don't forget our agreement. Killing the Uchiha clan is the fulfillment of the agreement, isn't it? In the darkness, there was still no other sound, until a moment later, Qianye's eyes suddenly flashed. He felt that an extremely powerful person was approaching. In a corner of the darkness, two blood-red eyes suddenly lit up. Inside, three Magatama were connected to each other, forming a blade shape. Mangekyo Sharingan, Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique. Fire Style Phoenix Claw Red. Fire Style, Great Fire Dragon Technique. Fire Escape Ninjutsu was released one after another. The speed of the seal was amazing. It felt like the next ninjutsu had just been used. In this way, more than 10 ninjutsu were released at the same time. Instantly, an extremely terrifying power was displayed. The boiling flames roared and screamed wildly, wantonly devouring, destroying, and assimilating everything that wanted to approach them. After a while, the originally lush forest turned into a sea of fire burning. The flames filled the sky, illuminating everything around it red. Tuanzhan had some fine beads of sweat on his forehead, staring at Qianye with a bad look. Everything he had just experienced was a big loss for him. Especially the physical consumption was even more so. After all, he was old and his physical strength was not as good as before. Behind him, a pair of blood-red eyes flashing red slowly approached and finally stood beside him. It was Uchiha, Itachi. Itachi, you did a great job. The words were said to Itachi, but he did not turn around, but still looked at Qianye. kill him, kill Uchiha Qianye. Konoha will never regret the promise it made to you. Itachi nodded slightly and walked in front of Qianye, facing this opponent who had fought countless times before. Qianye's face showed a hint of amusement. Starting from the second simulation, he was defeated in the first moment, then barely resisted, and then had a slight advantage. Finally, now that he has gained a golden ability, 80 God's Airstrike, what will happen to him when facing this old opponent? Itachi stood in front of Qianye. The two looked at each other, seemingly motionless. But the people around knew very well that the confrontation between the two had begun. The confrontation between the Uchiha clan must be a confrontation between eye techniques. Uchiha Itachi is particularly good at illusions and has extremely high attainments. Let him take action. Of course he will use magic to solve the opponent. Will Itachi win? A trusted ninja next to Danzo asked. Of course, in the art of illusion, absolutely no one can be a match for Uchiha Itachi. Danzo's words were stiff and calm, but they were full of absolute confidence in Uchiha Itachi. After all, this was the most rare genius ninja in the Uchiha clan, and even in the entire Konoha in decades. In the field he was best at, he didn't believe Itachi would lose. Beside him, two trusted ninjas nodded after hearing Danzo's words. Yes, that's Uchiha Itachi. Although Qianye is strong, it depends on what they are competing in. It may be hard to say if it's a physical skill, but this is a battle of illusion. Itachi has absolutely no chance of losing. They watched closely from the side, and didn't help. In a battle between ninjas of this level, ordinary ninjas would just be giving away their heads. They would not be able to play any role at all. They would only be a drag. All they have to do is watch from the side. That's all. The winner has been decided. After a while, Danzo suddenly said in a deep voice, 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 48. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Only magic can defeat magic. As Danzo's words fell, Uchiha Itachi groaned. 2 obvious tears of blood flowed down his face from his blood-red eyes. His whole aura became extremely dejected. He quickly performed the instant body technique and retreated to a distance. Qianye did not stop him. The winner has been decided. Uchiha Itachi lost. Danzo frowned, and his subconscious reaction was that Itachi let him win. But he quickly denied this guess. According to his understanding of Itachi and the deal they had reached before, Itachi would not let him win. So, Danzo's face showed a solemn look. Although Uchiha Itachi was young, his strength had reached a point that he could hardly see through. Even compared to him, he was not much worse. But now he lost, and he lost in the illusion that he was best at. How could a strong man who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan lose in an illusion contest? This is simply impossible, unless the other ninja also has the Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo quickly realized this fact that seemed a bit unbelievable but very likely to exist. He stared closely at Qianye not far away, his eyes as sharp as a hawk. Qianye also slowly showed his eyes. Within the red light, 3 Magatama were connected to each other like blades. Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's eyes condensed instantly, and his face was deeply shocked. Sure enough, only the Mangekyo Sharingan can fight against the Mangekyo Sharingan. Although he had already had some guesses in his heart, now seeing it, the indescribable shock in his heart was inevitably revealed. The unique bloodline limit would escape of the first-generation Hokage of Konoha, Senju Hashirama. In addition, the Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan actually appeared on one person at the same time. Uchiha Qianye, such a person must not stay in this world. Go, kill him. Danzo half closed his eyes, and the single eye that was exposed showed a strong murderous intent. Beside him, the 2 trusted ninjas paused. Kill. Seriously? He possessed both the Mangekyo Sharingan and would release. Even Uchiha Itachi was no match for such a person. Let them kill him. Isn't this a joke? Danzo glanced at them coldly. The 2 trusted ninjas took a step back almost at the same time. Their fear of Danzo forced them to bite the bullet and attack. These 2 trusted ninjas were both elite jonins. They were not very strong in terms of combat power, however, they both had some extraordinary talents that ordinary ninjas did not have, and they were extremely strong auxiliary talents. This was also the reason why they could follow Danzo. Secret technique, poisonous insect technique. The ninja on the far left took the lead. He rushed forward in an instant, followed by a secret technique. As the secret technique was performed, countless insects emerged from his body and spread towards Qianye. He used chakra to feed the insects, parasitized them in his body, and drove them. Needless to say, the identity of this ninja has been fully revealed, Konoha clan. Following closely, another outer ninja also performed his own ninjutsu, the heart turn technique. This technique is performed silently. From the surface, nothing can be seen, only those who are well versed in this know the danger. In the process of fighting with others, most ninjutsu are attacks on the human body from the outside to the inside, but the heart turn technique is different. It directly attacks the human soul. It makes the enemy's soul fall into a deep sleep and let it be manipulated. Of course, the requirements for successfully performing this ninjutsu are extremely high. It requires the control and cooperation of teammates. There is almost no chance of success in a single case. This is how Konoha's famous legendary combination, deer, butterfly and pig came about, but now, there is only one person on the scene. Do you want to control Qianye? It's impossible. Qianye looked calm, facing the insects that almost covered the sky and spread over. He directly performed the ninjutsu, fire style, great fireball technique. A huge flame gushed out, gradually forming a huge fireball, rolling away with a scorching flame. The insects that gathered together like a giant curtain, covering the sky and the sun, met this huge fireball, as if they had met their nemesis. Even before they got close enough, they were burned to death by the scorching air waves. A lot of insects were killed or injured in just one encounter. The ninja of the Aburame clan looked heartbroken and quickly used chakra to control the insects to disperse and reduce casualties, but the previous offensive was completely interrupted. As for the other ninja of the Yamanaka clan, he was still insisting on his heart-turning technique, but the effect. It was almost useless. Yes, if they were not wearing masks, Danzo would have seen the sad faces of these two ninjas. It was difficult, too difficult. They were obviously two auxiliary ninjas, but they were used as the main attackers. They don't have the ability at all. Isn't this sending them to their deaths? At this time, the ninjas of the root organization who were originally scattered around saw the great changes that took place here and rushed over. Looking at the situation on the scene, they widened their eyes and could not hide their inner horror. It was would release and the Mangekyo Sharingan. Even Uchiha Itachi, the genius ninja who was famous in Uchiha and even the entire Konoha, was defeated. What kind of monster is this? Let's go together and kill him. Danzo's face was gloomy. He gave an order and dozens of ninjas from the root organization attacked at the same time, rushing towards Qianye and surrounding him. More than people. Come on. Qianye chuckled and performed ninjutsu. Would release multiple would clone technique. After facing the human sea battlefields of the root organization several times, Qianye also thought of his own way to deal with it, that is the multiple would clone technique. Since there is no helper, then create a helper. However, the amount of chakra required to perform this ninjutsu is extremely high, not to mention ordinary ninjas. Even those truly powerful beings may not be able to use this ninjutsu. Qianye has the physique of an Otsutsuki, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and would release. Only then can it be practiced and used in battle. As the ninjutsu was performed, suddenly, 10 figures exactly like him appeared beside Qianye, and the number is still increasing. 10, 15, 24, 50. The number of clones is increasing, and soon it is impossible to count how many there are. Next to him, Danzo the ninjas of the root organization were all shocked. One Uchiha Qianye is already extremely strong, now there are so many Uchiha Qianye, how can they fight? Although everyone knows that the strength of the shadow clones cannot be compared with the original body, but seeing so many Uchiha Qianye at the same time still makes them feel an extremely strong sense of oppression. Danzo's eyes narrowed slightly. Now the situation is getting worse and worse. Originally, he wanted to use the absolute advantage in numbers to cooperate with the ninjas of the Aburame clan and the Yamanaka clan to quickly complete the suppression. Unexpectedly, he actually used the multiple shadow clone technique directly. Accidents are really increasing. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 49. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Group Fighting Tactics. In just a short moment, dozens of identical Uchiha Qianye appeared in the center of the battlefield. At first glance, there were no fewer than the ninjas of the Root Organization. Everyone around was stunned. Such a terrifying amount of chakra, I'm afraid it's close to those legendary tailed beasts. Qianye looked grimly, looking at the surrounding Root ninjas. Dozens of identical Uchiha Qianye performed ninjutsu at the same time, fire-style phoenix fire technique. A huge flame gushed out and then scattered. It was like a cannonball burning with hot flames, bursting in all directions. From a distance, it was like a meteor passing through the night, which was very beautiful, but under this gorgeous appearance, there was a strong murderous intent hidden. Each ball of fire carried extremely amazing and terrifying energy, and the speed was so fast that it was incredible. It was difficult to dodge. Those who could enter the Root Organization and become the people personally selected by Danzo were all true hand. Their strength is stronger than that of ordinary elite jonin. Moreover, their psychological level and experience in facing life and death battles are even deeper. This is the strength of the Root Organization. But now, under the powerful offensive of Uchiha Qianye, they can't help but look solemn. Balls of flames with scorching air waves flew towards them. Logically speaking, the strength of the clone is completely different from that of the original body. Whether it is the amount of chakra or the power of the released ninjutsu, it is at least one level lower. But now, with dozens of clones released, the power of the ninjutsu released by each clone is still so amazing. See how did not see any signs of weakening. It was too terrifying. Although there was still some distance, the ninjas of the Root Organization had already felt the unbearable heat wave. Water escape water array wall. A group of ninjas who used water escape quickly released ninjutsu to resist the imminent powerful threat. They saw streams of rushing water rising from the ground, forming a natural wall. The water flowed rapidly, gushing upward, isolating everything. The original hot feeling disappeared in an instant. Instead, it was replaced by a cool feeling, but at this time, no one took it lightly. Because they knew that the real crisis had not yet arrived. The challenge was still to come. Hiss. After a while, bursts of such sounds rang out in the dark night, accompanied by streams of steaming white water vapor. It was caused by the collision between the flames and the water array wall. Balls of flames slammed into the water wall fiercely, and then went out. At the beginning, the ninjas of the Root Organization there wasn't much reaction yet, but soon they felt something was wrong. The number of fireballs was terrifying, almost unbelievable. Endless, as if there was no end. Moreover, the power brought by the fireballs was really amazing. After countless collisions, even the temperature of the water wall increased, and it even boiled. Danzo, who was watching the battle, frowned more and more. Just one person, but he actually suppressed dozens of ninjas from the Root Organization. Even if he did it himself, he would feel exhausted. But Uchiha Qianye was so relaxed. The novel was taken from the Rawla's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Things are not good. Tuanzhan let out a long breath, but his sight temporarily left the battlefield, looking at a certain place in the darkness, and said lightly, "Aren't you going to take action?" Haha. After a while, a vortex slowly appeared in the dark void. Two figures appeared, the masked man and Orochimaru. Is Konoha deserted? They can't even handle a little guy like this. Orochimaru said sarcastically. The masked man next to him stood by with his arms crossed, watching, and didn't seem to have any intention of taking action. Danzo snorted coldly, without saying anything more, but he distanced himself from the masked man and Orochimaru without leaving any trace. These two people were not worthy of his trust. The battle on the battlefield was still going on, but the victory or defeat was already at a thin line. Uchiha Qianye used his extraordinary ability to suppress dozens of ninjas of the Root Organization by himself. Danzo's face gradually became uglier. This time, the Uchiha clan was exterminated on the night. The Root Organization is full of elite troops, but they can't do anything to Uchiha Qianye. Doesn't this make people look down on them? Especially in front of the masked man and Orochimaru. These two people don't have any good intentions towards Konoha, and there is also Uchiha Qianye who is in a big battle. Konoha massacred the Uchiha clan and tried to kill him. The hatred between them has reached an almost irreversible situation. They are destined enemies. If we don't take advantage of the right time, place and people to deal with it today, I don't know how big a trouble it will be in the future. This is a super strong man who possesses both would release and Mangekyo Sharingan. But, can you stop him if you want to? Danzo is very clear about the answer, that is, it is impossible, even if he takes action, he doesn't have the confidence. Just when he was struggling and hesitating, Orochimaru suddenly said, Danzo, I can help you, but I have a condition. Conditions. Danzo's eyes flashed, Orochimaru licked his lips, his eyes full of greed. I want his body. Danzo's eyes narrowed, hesitating for a moment, then nodded, okay. The deal between the two was concluded. The masked man on the side watched everything indifferently, even when Orochimaru, who was nominally his subordinate, traded with Danzo, he did not say much. This was his organization, Akatsuki. In addition to completing the tasks he assigned on time, most of the time they were very free and did not have to accept his control completely. Orochimaru smiled evilly on his white and creepy face and took a few steps forward. In the center of the battlefield, in just a few minutes, Qianye suppressed dozens of ninjas of the Root organization by himself. He showed shocking strength. Just as he was about to attack, when he was about to get rid of everyone, he suddenly felt two strong auras rushing towards him. Almost at the same time, the ninjas of the Root organization also received orders to retreat. Since Orochimaru has agreed to take action, there is no need for Danzo to waste his strength. Qianye looked sideways. He saw two figures standing not far from him. They were the first generation Hokage Hashirama Senju and the second generation Hokage Tobirama Senju, who were resurrected by the impure world reincarnation. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The strongest physical technique. Uchiha Qianye looked at the two people in front of him who were famous in the entire ninja world. The blood-red Mangekyo Sharingan inadvertently became more creepy and brighter. His whole body became very agitated and boiling. In the previous fights, he was defeated by the two of them several times in a row. This time, with the 80 gods of air attack, I don't know what the result will be. Qianye dispersed all the shadow clones. It is completely useless if it is not multiple shadow clones. The shadow clone is very useful. It can be used to confuse the opponent, set tactics, and achieve unexpected results, but now Qianye obviously doesn't want these. What he wants is a real confrontation, a confrontation of strength, especially in simulations. Such a duel can better reflect the gap between strengths. In front of Qianye, the first and second generation Hokage attacked without warning. After approaching, several branches suddenly appeared, extending upward at a very fast speed, circling upward, trying to tie Qianye up. Before that, there was not even any hand seal. The ninjutsu was performed in an instant. There was no time or opportunity to react. Even Qianye was slightly surprised when he first saw it. He knew clearly that the current impure world reincarnation was incomplete and imperfect. Therefore, the strength of the first and second generation Hokage was far from reaching the peak level. But even so, the strength shown by these two was enough to surprise. Being able to cast spells without making hand seals was just an extremely common one. The extremely rich combat experience and the endless wonderful ninjutsu. It was amazing. Qianye hurriedly used the instant body technique to dodge, but it was too late. The branches climbed upwards and tied Qianye up tightly. However, just as they were tightened, the original Qianye suddenly became empty and turned into a piece of wood. Would escape substitute technique. At the most critical moment, Qianye still used this ninjutsu, avoided this surprise attack. However, before he could feel at ease, the crisis came again. This time it was the second generation Hokage, the second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama, the founder of many powerful forbidden techniques. His strength may not be as good as that of Hashirama Senju, who is known as the god of ninja, but it should not be underestimated, especially when many magical ninjutsu are performed. It is completely impossible to defend against. Just when the first generation attacked Qianye, he had already attacked. He came behind Qianye silently. His speed and tricky movements were simply amazing. Qianye used the substitute technique to avoid the attack of the first generation. The second generation had already appeared behind him, holding a kunai in his hand and stabbed down fiercely. Qianye hurried to resist. However, before he could make a defensive move, the second generation of Hokage behind him disappeared in an instant. An extremely strong sense of crisis came over him, relying on the terrifying insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Qianye once again noticed the traces of the second generation. However, before he could look over, the second generation had disappeared again, Flying Thunder God. Qianye instantly realized what kind of ninjutsu this was. It was the famous space-type ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God. Before the second generation Hokage made his move, he had already thrown out several kunai marked with the Flying Thunder God technique. It seemed that he was shooting kunai randomly, but in fact, it was a well-marked point. It allowed him to perform Flying Thunder God. This is how he could teleport so quickly in a very short time. That is, Qianye has the Mangekyo Sharingan, and his ability to perceive and see has reached a level that ordinary ninjas can't even imagine. This is how he can find the second generation every time. This requirement alone is already extremely high, but it is not enough. Seeing is only the most basic requirement. To see, you also need a very strong reaction speed, be able to dodge attacks. It is extremely difficult to do this. Even those ninjas who are good at physical skills may not be able to do it, but Qianye is different. He has the Mangekyo Sharingan and the super physical skills under the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique. As early as when he just obtained this golden ability, he was able to defeat Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, with his super physical skills. Afterwards, he also relied on physical skills to injure the careless masked man. Qianye is now even stronger than before. Just relying on physical skills is enough to face most of the Kage-level strongmen in this world. So when facing the Flying Thunder God of the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, he was not at a disadvantage and was able to resist it completely. However, the situation soon changed again, because the first Hokage Senju Tobirama took action. The trees on the ground rose from the ground, winding and entwining towards Qianye. On the one hand, Qianye had to face the Flying Thunder God of the second Hokage, and on the other hand, he had to be careful of the ninjutsu released by the first Hokage from a distance. He immediately felt great pressure. After all, the strength of these two, even the weaker second Hokage, is far beyond the reach of ordinary Kage-level strongmen. Coupled with the first Hokage, Qianye can barely fight back without losing. If a Kage-level strongman of the same level comes, I am afraid he will not be able to hold on for even a minute. However, as time went on, Qianye still felt that 2 fists could not beat 4 hands, and he was a little overwhelmed. In order to change the situation, he can only change his tactics. 80 God's Air Attack. Qianye distanced himself in an instant, and then released this golden ability that he had just obtained but had not had time to use. As the ninjutsu was performed, he condensed a large amount of chakra in his body into his palm, and in an instant, his palm burst into an extremely dazzling white light. A strong and heavy aura also slowly leaked out. At this time, there was no need to say more. Everyone present knew that Qianye was releasing a very powerful ninjutsu. Even ninja shops like the first and second generation Hokage felt the pressure, and they prepared countermeasures in an instant. That is, it is best not to let Qianye release the ninjutsu. The 2 of them, one far and one close, performed ninjutsu to interrupt Qianye's accumulating power. Qianye looked calm, still maintaining his previous movements, and the impending power Waki completely ignored it. He was confident that he could complete the ninjutsu before the opponent's attack arrived. 80 God's Airstrike, the bloodline network that belongs exclusively to Kagaya Otsutsuki, excellent in both offense and defense. It is known as the strongest physical technique among the Naruto. It has extremely terrifying energy. If Kagaya Otsutsuki performs this ninjutsu, she doesn't need any time to condense chakra. She can do it at will, without any deliberate preparation. However, it is not so easy for Qianye to perform such a powerful ninjutsu with his current strength. First of all, the control of chakra is far from being able to be done at will. Therefore, he needs time to condense and prepare for the performance of ninjutsu. 3-day summer promotion. Recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th.